endless paper trails, countless emails, manual follow up, and headaches. That's what people often think about when they think about HR, human resources. But today, I have someone on the stream today that's going to flip that narrative on its head. The person I have today, his knowledge is both deep and wide when it comes to HR service delivery. He has an easy smile and a raucous laugh, and I am so excited to have him here today. I'm Kylie Alexander. This is day 25 on 100 Days of Service Now, and without further ado, I want to welcome to the stream Mohammed Unwala. Mohammed, welcome to the stream.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Woo!
Good to
Let's
have you
go.
here. Good to have you here. I'm so excited to have you here, and there's lots of things that I want to get into it with you about today. So I appreciate you taking out your time. So, what are some of the biggest challenges that organizations face when it comes to HR service delivery?
Right. So ServiceNow HR service delivery really helps eliminate four pain or addresses four pain points that we see across different customers, across different industry. First one being it really helps eliminate inefficient manual HR workflows and processes. So time and again, oftentimes we have seen that organizations still have tons of mailboxes. They use mailboxes to support different inquiries that the employees may have, and also some of them work out of spreadsheets to manage their queue. ServiceNow, with its platform automation and workflows capabilities, really helps eliminate and automate some of those processes for the HR customers. The second, it helps provide a single access point for employees to access all the HR services. And I think this is a big one, especially in the hybrid work environment that we are living in. We want a single point of access. So if I'm an employee, I don't need to remember that I need to send an email to payroll at abc.com if I have a payroll inquiry, versus if I have a benefits inquiry, I have to send an email to another mailbox. The employee center portal that comes with the platform gives that one-stop shop experience for all your employee needs, be it a benefits inquiry or a PTO request. They need to just come into that portal, submit a request, and ServiceNow takes care of the rest. The third point that I want to that ServiceNow helps address is it securely manages employee records through their life cycle. So it's with the onboarding and offboarding capabilities that it has, right from pre-hire to pre-boarding to like day one. There's a seamless experience that it provides to the new hire becoming an employee into the system. And with its employee document management functionality or feature, it helps store all the employee documents in one space. So like you could have a repository, a folder for each employee where you can store all their documents right from the hire till the time they leave the company. And fourth, and one of my favorite, it helps integrate seamlessly with existing HR related systems like payroll, talent management, background screening, etc.
I'm glad you mentioned the piece about having that one place where an employee can go. I think about at a previous employer where I was trying to do some information about my benefits, and I sent an email. It seemed to have taken forever to get a response, but who knows me? I've been called. I haven't. It wouldn't be the first time I've been called impatient, but it seemed like that to get a response in that email, only for that response to say, "Oh, you need to contact X, Y, and Z in this other department." It was like, ah! And so, by the time I contact that other person, that other department, now we're talking about a week, and time is money, and time is also frustration when you're talking about these questions that are hanging out there and not being tended to. The other thing you mentioned is being able to integrate with other tools that a company may already be using. Oftentimes, you'll know that hear that companies are using Workday. So, is it common that you will see an organization that you're doing an implementation for using things, other tools like Workday? Do those two work side by side? Are they in competition? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think ServiceNow has gone on record and saying that we are not here in to compete with the existing Workday HR solutions like Workday. If a customer is using Workday as the source of record, yes, ServiceNow can easily integrate with it and bring in some key employee data, such as date of birth, employment type, the date of joining, etc., into ServiceNow so that that data can reside into ServiceNow and then can help facilitate the HR processes or help within the automation of some of those processes. And if the customer allows, we can also build a bi-directional integration within Workday, because again, ServiceNow is here
Mm,
to provide that user experience to their employee, that some of the tasks that can they can do in Workday, they don't have to remember doing it in two places. With ServiceNow giving the form, like updating their marital status, for example, or changing their legal name, for example, that's something that are some quick use cases that we can define or give a form in ServiceNow. The employee can fill out that form, submits it, and based on the integration that we have in the backend, we can seamlessly integrate and update Workday profile for that user. So again,
yeah.
ServiceNow's motto is to give them that seamless user experience or enhanced user experience that some of the systems like Workday doesn't have.
Right. You talked early at the very beginning of our conversation about the Employee Center portal. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that is what the end user is going to be interacting with, most often. So talk to me a little bit about that. What does the user experience, walk me through that user experience.
Right. So if I'm an employee and I need to know about my benefits or like my PTO accrual, I just need to go to the employee center, and based on the knowledge base, like ServiceNow has a case and knowledge functionality. So the HR's agents have the ability to create knowledge bases or knowledge articles highlighting their benefits, the different benefits that they have, the different PTO policies for different employee types, and then publish those knowledge articles into the employee center. And with the search, AI search functionality, the employee can type in keywords like benefits or inquiry or PTO, and that can give them come back with the search results, any of the knowledge articles that are already existing that match with that term. Or if not, then they could also be presented with an intake form or an inquiry form that they can submit to get further information regarding their dental plan or their vision plan, etc.
I love that. I heard two things. One is that there is a dashboard or a workspace. And then the other part that the end user will see is having access to knowledge articles that can answer some of those questions that may be lingering, or they'll answer those questions that typically would have been dealt with by way of email. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, yeah. So you can definitely use knowledge management in conjunction with Employee Center to deflect some of the cases and bring that cases down. Because obviously, if you do not have a portal out there with your knowledge management, it's really hard. Because if I as an employee have a question regarding my dental plan, I just need to know what my dental plan coverage is. I have to send an email to my benefits mailbox. But now with knowledge management in ServiceNow and Employee Center, I can just go to the Employee Center, search for that key terms, and it will present me with like related articles that obviously I can browse through myself. So a lot of self-service is what drives employee centered and employees. So that obviously A, it helps drive self-service, and B, it helps reduces case count. So it acts as a case deflection system as well.
So having that self-service functionality, you're definitely going to be making a friend with an organization's employees base for sure. Self-service is where it's at, absolutely 100% of the time. Tell me about the learning curve. So we're going through an implementation. Someone has brought on, you're with GlideFast Consulting. Someone's brought GlideFast Consulting on for HRSD implementation, human resource service delivery implementation. Then what? What are the first steps? What can a potential customer or organization expect with an implementation?
Right, so perfect. As soon as the deal is closed by our sales team, it goes to the resourcing team, and we have a really great resourcing team. And we, as a GlideFast, use ServiceNow internally for all our employees to store our employee profiles and have skill sets associated to our profile. Also, at GlideFast Consulting, we are all categorized into what we call as pods. So, our area of special expertise, like I myself am part of the HR pods, and with me, there are 40 other HR professionals that have the same more relevant or more experience than me, that are tasked to be working on HRSD. So if there's an HRSD implementation, the resourcing team looks at the HR pod, and based on the availability, it staffs the resources, right from like a business process consultant to an architect and to TCs that range from 2 to 3 based on the scope of the engagement. But yeah, when you hire GlideFast, we make sure that we get you the experts, best experts, right on staffed onto the project from get go. And having said that, there's always whenever we say this very proudly that whenever a customer hires GlideFast, it hires GlideFast as a whole. So all 500 of us, and not just the team that's working on it. So like if there's any question, we have the full GlideFast team supporting us for any questions or any help that we may need. So that's definitely a differentiator when customer brings in GlideFast versus any other partners there.
Yeah, you mentioned that you have the pod and then you also have the entire company. But you said that, and I want to just make sure I heard you correctly, because you said, yeah, you'll have people, like me or even more experienced than me. And I just kind of point that out because I'm looking at your title, your credentials, and you're a ServiceNow architect. So when you say like, yeah, we have people that are more experienced than me that's going to also be working on your project, not just me, that's pretty impressive. Tell me a little bit more about what's so great about the folks you work with within your pod.
Yeah, I think we've got the best talent really out there, and you always tend to learn new things. And I like with being with GlideFast for just over a year, I cannot say that I've always been humbled when I work with one of my other colleagues. As I mentioned, like I am part of an architect team, so I have different architects that again focuses on HRSD as their implementation, and we always share our knowledges. We always are on different projects, but again based on relevant experiences, we always bounce ideas back and forth. We have a dev hub community internally that whenever we are stuck, we can ask a question and there would be like 10, 20 people trying to answer that question and help you out. So we have built that sense of community and family here that really helps deliver quality to our customers.
When I think about ServiceNow, especially the beginnings of ServiceNow, we often think of ITSM, IT Service Management, but ServiceNow has grown far beyond that, with ITSM still being at the core foundation. I bring this up because when you're talking about HR, you're dealing with folks who do not have that IT background. So there's a little bit of a different kind of a language there. So talk to me a little bit more about the learning curve, the experience of kind of, overcoming the learning curve when you're dealing with folks within an organization who don't come from an IT background necessarily.
Right, yeah. So I think this is definitely one of the challenges and learning opportunity that you have to go through when you're working on HRSD implementation because you're dealing with HR folks which are not as tech savvy as IT folks. They may have never used the ServiceNow instance, so you cannot use like ServiceNow lingo with them, like record producers and assignment groups and things like that. You have to really break it down into like, a natural English language that, an intake form is similar to a record producer, but you have to use intake form and not record producer. Instead of assignment group, you have to use like a group that would be queued, a queue group or something like that, right? So, yeah, that's definitely one of the challenges, but also a learning opportunity that helps you think out of the box. And again, with you being a developer, a tech-based developer, it's really refreshing when you work with these people and as with time and your experience you sort of like grow naturally into it and then you're
Yeah,
used to you're just one of them. So
I love hearing that. I think that when you talk about, you're dealing with people who don't have that IT background and you start talking about record producers and all of these different things that are kind of, really service now, very, very much grounded in IT language. It takes sort of a gentle hand to be able to guide folks through. You also offer additional support with training, correct?
yes, that is correct because we realize that when we sort of like implement this phase one for case and knowledge management, employee center for our customers, there's definitely some ramping or learning curve even for our HR agents because as I mentioned, they're so used to working with spreadsheets and mailboxes that it's a big transition from them, and we definitely understand that. So we are here to like support them. After every sprint, 2 week sprint that we have like showback sessions that we do demo to our customers to let them know what we worked on and sort of like give them that how their requirements that we gathered is now being implemented and in a tool so they can visually they can see how it will function, so that definitely helps. And then obviously we support them during user acceptance testing where they're really like into the system and trying to navigate themselves before the production go live. And training, as you mentioned, we have a great training team in-house that we always support. So like for all our implementations, or for most of them that I've worked on, training has always been included as part of our implementation. So our trainers come in and they build their training materials and then train the users right before the go live and after user acceptance testing when they're a bit familiar with the platform. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely some things that we do.
You have companies, Apex, for example, right? Uh, the parent company to GlideFast, in different locations. You have Portugal, Spain, US, Caribbean, Africa, all these different places. So how are you able to manage that when you have kind of different scope and different laws and regulations? Tell me a little bit about how you're able to accommodate that.
Right. So this is a great question because we work with a lot of customers that are globally based, and we typically tend to take an MVP approach based on their operations. If they're based out of US, United States, then their biggest operation is in the United States region, or one of their operations is in UK, London based, right? So we try to take one or two use cases because obviously we know how difficult or how long the process is if you want to implement or try to tackle the global scope. We always try to break it down into MVP products. So hey, you have operations in America. Let's get that as part of the scope. Let's build out some services for your American users, and you can see the potential of the tool. And then gradually, once your agents are used to working with the platform, we can definitely expand onto like other regions, because obviously word of mouth, like if you have your American HR agents using the system, they can definitely also help influence the other region based HR folks to tell them how great the platform is. And it just makes that process easier because we're here for a longer time, right? So we usually typically go the MVP approach where we take one or two regions, tackle that, implement it fullest, and then we sort of like proceed to the next region as per the customer's request.
I
But then
love what
there's
you said. Yes, continue.
yeah, but just to finish off, like, yeah, we have capabilities internal to HRSD where we use like features like HR criteria and audiences to restrict visibility of different forms and different knowledge articles based on the region that they come from. So that is supported by platform, which gives the platform the endless opportunity to have global regions also log into the same portal, and you can have the portal completely look different for customers coming from like EMEA versus AMER versus APAC, and the content can also be separated out based on that specific criteria, right? So yeah.
Sure, sure. I love what you said when you talked about getting that MVP, get that minimal viable product where you're like, okay, we're just going to be able to focus on this, and we're going to focus on this in this region. Get that whole thing nice and shiny, polished up, work out all of the kinks, and then be able to expand it into other regions. Kind of once I come from an education background, and one of the things that we talk about all the time is go slow to go fast. So it's like you really like get those multiplication tables down, get them things down, and then I can take you to calculus, I can take you to trigonometry. So same thing here. It's like you want to get that really shiny object and just get it really nailed down, chiseled, working perfectly in this one region, this one scope, and then you can start to expand it into other areas, and then perhaps add virtual agent, perhaps add knowledge bases. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, you put it perfectly.
Right on there, right
That's
on
our
there. So,
strategy always.
right on. You've been here, so let's switch gears a little bit. You've been here meaning the ServiceNow ecosystem since Dublin. Tell me about a little bit about your ServiceNow story. How did you get to ServiceNow?
Yeah, I started my career back in 2014, right about Dublin. I started my journey at a customer who had an in-house ServiceNow Dev QA test team. I was part of that team. Started as a system administrator as I was completely fresh out of university, trying to learn ServiceNow. Never heard of the tool before I actually got into the job, but yeah, learned everything on the job. Started with like sysadmin activities. Uh, Quickly transition into development roles, but working with like catalog items, incidents, things like that. Also assisting the architect for the integration part that we had at the time with BMC Remedy, and then I worked on ITSM and custom apps for a few years. And then obviously I was at a point in my career where I was looking to expand my skill set, and I saw ServiceNow growing as well. So that beyond IT, so I was trying to explore in the region of HR service delivery, customer service management, things like that. And I wanted to expand my skill set. Wanted to try something new. That's when HR service delivery caught my eye, and I thought, why not try it out? And as I said, it was very different coming from ITSM, just based on the data structure that it has. The stakeholders that you deal with are not IT focused. So I took that as a challenge, as a learning opportunity, got into HRSD, really fell in love with the tool, saw it grow from like a non-scope app to a scope app, and then just how secure ServiceNow made it out of the box with all the different features. Until date, it just keeps adding features to it. And yeah, it's been like 4.5 years that I've been focused on solely on HRSD implementations. I may have done like one or two ITSM implementations here and there, but mainly uh, at GlideFast, before GlideFast, even prior to that, uh, all I've been like focused is on HRSD for my past couple of employers.
You talked about being at a customer and using legacy tools and then really saying, hey, I know that ServiceNow is going to be the way. Tell me more specifically, however, what is it about HRSD that attracted you?
Again, just the way it's structured in the back end and the stakeholders. I think I really like working with HR stakeholders because they are easygoing, they're new. So like, you love to like deal with them. They're always very warm whenever you work with them, respectful. So just like, yeah, it's a breeze. Like you don't feel like you're working on a project or their customers, you can, uh, that's something definitely that I love about HRSD. But apart from that, just the platform, like how powerful the platform is, right from like case and knowledge management, employee center, all the different add-ons like employee document management and the integrations that you can build to keep them current, and just helps solve. I think it's always given me pleasure to like help solve business problems, trying to bring them from like manual processes and to like automation, and just to break that taboo that HR cannot be automated, or they're not tech savvy, or they can work. So really helping them and bring a smile to their faces at the end of it, on how they feel accomplished, that and how they can do their jobs quicker now without having to worry, and giving like flexibilities, visibility to the employees as well. So yeah.
I love what you said because when you can share a tool and make the customer feel empowered by that, that is priceless, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. Empower is the word that I missed. Thank you. Yeah.
No, you didn't miss a thing. You just inspired it in me. I mean, and I met you through GlideFast, and part of my attraction to GlideFast was this palpable enthusiasm, and I think that you are such representative of that because when I hear you talk about HRSD, it's like my eyes have seen the light.
Yep. Yeah,
So I
I
just love
definitely
that.
have passion for HRSD for sure. Yeah.
If you were entering the ServiceNow ecosystem, so we're going to kind of delve into this a little bit more because we have lots of folks that are entering the ServiceNow ecosystem. Part of the reason why I do these streams is because I've said this before and I'll say it again, it was October of 2022, well, where ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott made the ambitious announcement to scale up 1 million people in the ecosystem by the end of 2024. And it is my ambition to see these 1 million people gainfully employed in this ecosystem. So there, with the ServiceNow being so wide, I had to ask you about why HRSD, and I'm sure with your testimonial, we're going to have a lot of people running to get HRSD certified and looking to get HRSD projects. But what I want to ask you is, if you were entering the ecosystem today, right now, what would you be doing right now to skill up, to land your first role? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Right. So, for any newcomer who's just entering the ecosystem, I definitely recommend going through the ServiceNow Fundamental course, because for you to scale up in any of the non-IT modules like HRSD, CSM, SecOps, GRC, ITOM, you still need to have a good foundation of the platform. You need to understand how the platform works, all the different core components of the platform. So you have to definitely start there. Start as a system administrator is the great way to get into the tool. And obviously, if you have development skills, if you know the coding languages, then it'll be just quicker for you to sort of like transition into a developer role. And as I said, ITSM is a great gateway into ServiceNow because you can work on light things like catalog items, service requests, incidents, sort of like, and then from there you really need to like find your mojo. Like I found my mojo with HRSD, but if you're good with like operations, if you come from an operations background, then ITOM may be the way for you. If you've come from like an ERP system or an ERP background, then customer service management might be the way you want to pick up. But yeah, once you have sort of like some experience under your belt, you know the system, you have a good foundation, then you can sort of like start thinking of pivoting into a specialization, and just based on your interest and your expertise, you can choose to proceed. Like, you can always shadow. Like we have that opportunity here. We have our own university. We have a lot of grads that graduate every year from the university, and then they always have the passion for a lot of the scope tab or some of the specialized area, right? Like we have a lot of grads who are interested in HR service delivery, so we in-house we definitely add them to our pod, and then we make sure that we staff one at least one GCU grad on our HRSD project, so they have like real experience. So that's where they can shadow our experienced TCs on how things are done, because things are done a little differently, like, especially if you have done it on the ITSM side. The way we do the configuration is a little bit different, but again, if you know the platform, it's easy for you to sort of like gain that skill set. But then with a lot of like shadowing sessions and making them part of our team and also giving them some stories to work on really helps boost that confidence. And then obviously once you have one or two projects under your belt, then you can feel free to go ahead and take the certification as well, because now with ServiceNow, they're really pushing more on certifications, and we have our own GlideFast Plus, where you can get your courses, register for your courses, and get your certifications as well. So that's a great avenue for me. Yeah, all in all, I think resources have expanded or have come a long way since the time I started, because I think it took me like 2.5, 3 years to get my sysadmin certification because it was not that easy or accessible to get your cert. Like you had to really prove yourself to even being qualified to for your company, for your employer to pay for your certification, right? But these days, learning is definitely right at top, and even ServiceNow has the fundamental course available, the self-service one available at free of cost, because they wanna the point that you mentioned, that they wanna have 1 million people on the ecosystem. So yeah, there's a lot of access to resources these days that I wish I had when I
Yeah.
entered. But yeah.
So I'm just going to recap what you said. So, and I'm a big note taker. And so the first thing you said was understand the platform. That's the number one thing you said, was to understand the platform. And then you said, going for the CSA, certified system admin, putting in the time, the work to understand the platform in that way. And then you said you want to start getting understanding of ITSM processes within ServiceNow. And then from there, that is when you can start to specialize and say, oh, it's going to be CSM, or it's going to be HRSD or SecOps or what have you. Then you would move on from there. Then you said, and when you land that first role, you're looking to start doing some shadowing sessions so you can start to see, this product, this application suite in action, and then get the certification. So I wanted to point that out because you were like, yeah, do some shadowing first and then get the certification. Certainly you can do one before the other, but I like that you said that there's an opportunity to do both, because that way you can get that real experience, hands in the product, getting the hands dirty, and then getting the certification, after that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, tell me a little bit about yourself. We all have these LinkedIn profiles where I know your credentials. I've been stalking you a little bit. I've been checking out your experience, your expertise. But tell me something about you that's not on your LinkedIn profile.
Phew. So I think something that's already on my LinkedIn profile is that, like my career has been all in service now, right? Right from like university, I was fortunate enough to land a job within ServiceNow, and I haven't looked back ever since, and I don't intend to do so. So in that term, you can say it's an advantage or a disadvantage, uh, but I look at it for advantage for now. But apart from that, I am a sports enthusiast as well. Uh, I love cricket as the sport. I
Lakers,
follow
go ahead.
like you know.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you
Well,
said.
I'm saying I'm a sports enthusiast, and then cricket is the sport that I follow the most. I'm also very big on community services, just giving back. So whenever I have my
Hmm.
free time, I offer my services to community, be it by time or be it by money. I always feel like, especially the era that we just came out of from, I think we are blessed to have food on our table. So I just try to give it back to the community based on like whatever I can in the time that I have. So I think that defines me as a person. And I'm just like a people person, right? So wherever there's any networking events or like, I always look for opportunity to meet new people, grow my network because you get to learn so much when you meet people with different perspective, different backgrounds, things like that. So yeah, always learning
Yeah.
from real life experiences.
I can testify to that because that's how you and I met. You just said, "Hey, let's meet,"
Yep,
and I
that's right.
really appreciate you for doing that. Well, listen, Mohammed Unwala, ServiceNow architect at GlideFast Consulting, HRSD Prod Application Suite expert. I want to thank you so much for joining me on the stream today. I will see you in the next one. Take good care.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Indeed, indeed. Whoa, right? Didn't I tell you? Like, there's something about Mo's energy that is just infectious. And what's so cool about it is that it carries over into his work. In a former life, I was a yoga teacher, and one of the things that I often told my students is that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything, or at least most things. And with Mohammed, you really can see how the way his disposition is, how it translates into his work, and his customers are really, really fortunate to have him. Well, listen, this has been episode 25 of 100 Days of Service Now. I'm Kylie Alexander. If you're joining me live, this is Wednesday, and on Friday, we're going to be doing day 26. We're going to be doing a kickback, what I call a Service Now kickback with Rob Fedoric. I hope to see you there, and until next time, stay curious. Bye.